Good afternoon, everyone. It's a little past 1 o'clock, so let's get started. My name is Jerry Hahn from Purdue University CERIAS. I'd like to welcome you to the August 12th session of the CERIAS Summer Security Seminar Series. We've been very pleased with the lineup we have in place and hope that you'll benefit from hearing from the cybersecurity experts and practitioners that we have assembled for you at these weekly seminars. These sessions would not be possible without the support of the members of the CERIAS Strategic Partnership Program. To learn more about CERIAS and the CERIAS Strategic Partnership Program and how your organization may benefit, please contact info@cerias.purdue.edu. During the presentation, please keep your line muted. If you have a question, please submit your questions via the Q&A function. We'll also be monitoring the raise your hand function on WebEx. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Shimon Modi is a seasoned cloud cybersecurity product and people leader with over 10 years of experience and a proven record of launching leading-edge B2B SaaS solutions. Throughout his career, Dr. Modi has worked in technical and leadership roles in a wide range of cybersecurity initiatives in industry, government, and academia. He is currently Principal Product Manager at Elastic, focused on building security solutions. Previously, he was head of product at TrueStar Technology, where he led engineering and data science teams in building an innovative cyber intelligence management platform. He was also a member of the Accenture Technology Labs, where he led cybersecurity initiatives focused on threat intelligence and the Internet of Things. Dr. Modi also has served as a technical expert for U.S. national standards and a delegate for the U.S. national body for ISO biometric standards. He's authored a book, co-authored several book chapters, and published over 15 technical journals and conference articles. Dr. Modi received his bachelor's, master's, and PhD from Purdue University, so welcome home. With that, I'll turn it over to Shimon.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and just share my screen, make sure everybody can see the content I want to share.
And it looks good.
It looks great. Perfect. All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and if people are joining from other time zones, good evening. Thank you again for having me here for the CERIAS Security Seminar Series. I guess, Jerry, thank you for that introduction. You've already covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about, but I'm extremely proud and honored to be back here at CERIAS doing this presentation. As Jerry mentioned in my introduction, I'm currently at Elastic. That's the company behind Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, the more popular open source search engine that folks may be familiar with. And I'm part of the security team that's building out its security solution. Over the last 10 years, since I moved on from Purdue, I have been focused heavily on researching, building, and launching a variety of detection and response capabilities. And those are some of the learnings and findings that I want to share with you today as I walk through how do you separate out hype from reality when you're talking about cyber threat intelligence as part of today's security operations. Just a little fun fact, I presented at the Security Seminar Series back in 2008. Almost 12 years ago. So thank you for having me back. Feels like a great homecoming. I'm a Boilermaker through and through, loud and proud. So happy to be here as part of CERIAS' Security Seminar Series. So a quick outline, right? The topics that I want to go through today. Just want to set the stage with a little bit of background around evolution of SOCs. This may be obviously second nature to a lot of folks on the presentation today, but it is illustrative and helpful to kind of set the frame and lay the groundwork for why cyber threat intelligence has become such a core part of the evolution of SOCs as we talk about it today. But along with that evolution and along with the promise, there's a lot of hype that has been created around cyber threat intelligence. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are making CTI and its operationalization a little bit more challenging than what was anticipated when threat intelligence was being talked about. And then want to end with some some real opportunities and challenges that need to be addressed to be able to make TTI more operational. This is around a lot of research work that I have done over the last 8 to 10 years, and would love to share it with the audience here. So as we talk about the SOC, right? SOC has changed multiple times and has evolved since they were first introduced almost 20, 30 years ago, depending on which literature you decide to read. But one thing that is still common to the SOC's mission and how it's organized is that it is a team that's composed of analysts that's organized to detect, analyze, respond to, and report on cybersecurity events. A SOC is not a technology. A SOC is not just a physical space. A SOC is really people, process, and technology, right? And the objectives that a SOC tries to address are, I would say, kind of fivefold. They can be broken down into the following: around proactive prevention through continuous monitoring, through continuous scanning. That's number one. Number two is around just monitoring and detection of potential intrusions as they happen in real time. Then you go into more of the response once incidents and events are detected. How do you respond to them? And then SOCs also serve the need of providing situational awareness around reporting on status of different cybersecurity incidents. And then there's the platform work, the engineering, and the operation of the technologies that form the basis of a SOC. If you look at this graphic, threat intelligence is kind of like the latest entrant into the SOC space. I guess you could call AI ML in there as well, but I see AI and ML as still being a few years away from being operational. As I talk to customers, users, look at conferences with security operations folks, threat intelligence, and being able to separate the wheat from the chaff is top of mind for a lot of operational leaders, as well as folks who are down in the trenches trying to alert and triage detection alerts. And so when we talk about threat intelligence, it's also important to kind of understand some of the events that have happened over the last 10 years, which have made cyber threat intelligence bring up or become more and more top of mind and more fundamental to a SOC. Almost 10 years ago, Stuxnet happened. Enough said about that. But as I was putting this together, I came to a realization that it was almost 10 years ago where Stuxnet really brought into the mainstream just how targeted attacks can be executed. And then going into 2011, there was the RSA data breach, the Sony data breach, one of the many Sony data breaches. And then 2013 is what I consider kind of an instrumental and a pivotal year for cyber threat intelligence. Mandiant made its APT1 report public, which really talked about how to look at actors, tactics, campaigns, and how do actors go about achieving their objectives. And then the target breach really again brought cybersecurity into the mainstream. And that breach was also illustrative in really bringing to the forefront that your four walls and your perimeter is not all that needs to be defended. Attacks, especially now in this hyper-connected world, in the era of ecosystems, can originate outside your perimeter and can easily propagate inside. And then 2015 is like another pivotal year as I kind of look at the rise of exploit kits as a service. Talking about Angler, Neutrino, and Magnitude, Rig, all of these really made exploits that much easier to execute and deploy. And phishing, right? Like we've been mired in this world of phishing over the last few years. It's become more and more top of mind. And COVID-19 really brought that message home too. Within a month of COVID-19 lockdown starting to happen, Google saw more than 18 million malware and phishing emails related to COVID-19 scams in the month of April. There were a variety of different tactics. They were either impersonating government organizations, asking for donations, but their objective was get in and take over the system either for ransomware campaigns or data exfiltration objectives. All of that being said, though, there has been an increasing sophistication with which attackers come after organizations, and that's where the notion of looking at how do the defenders start changing their detection and response goals has also become front and center. Defenders have started thinking about how much pain can they cause to the adversaries when they can detect attacker tradecraft. Really thinking about it from an economic standpoint, and this is where I feel the work that was done by David Bianco, where he published The Pyramid of Pain, is again one of the foundational elements that have changed how SOC analysts and SOCs think about detection and response goals. And I'll just go through this real quick. If you're familiar with it, just bear with me. If you're not, I would highly recommend read up on this specific article. There are plenty of blogs available out there on the internet around the Pyramid of Pain. But the whole idea is that if you as a defender are just trying to block and tackle on hash values, that is trivial for attackers to overcome. And as you keep moving up the pyramid, as you go from hash values to IP addresses, if you block and tackle on IP addresses as a defender, the attacker still can quite easily circumvent your monitoring and detection controls. Domain names is simple. And then when you start going into network and host artifacts, that's where you start changing the economics and really starting to inflict pain on the attackers. Being able to block and tackle and monitor network and host artifacts, now that makes it a little bit more challenging for the attackers to go undetected. And when you can get to TTPs, really understanding the techniques, tactics, what kind of infrastructure are they using to launch their attacks, what kind of exploit kits are they using, and being able to set up monitoring and detection controls around TTPs. That's where you can start inflicting a lot of pain on the attackers. Easy enough to talk about it. Quite difficult to put in practice, especially when you talk about being able to collect all the details that are required to formulate the TTPs and then convert them into something that can be deployed within your detection and prevention controls. But the Pyramid of Pain is a fantastic way to kind of think through the economics of attackers and how do you change that. And so the last I would say 5 to 10 years have been heavily focused on how do we use as much information that is available within your four walls and beyond your four walls to close what I call the attacker's window of opportunity. And so if you kind of think about the attacker's movement going through the phases of recon, weaponizing, delivering, exploiting, installing, creating a connection with a command and control server, and then acting on their objectives, which is also like how the Lockheed Martin kill chain put it. Most of the detection and prevention controls that we have had are good at activating when the attack has already happened or the attack is in progress. There is obviously an increasing desire to what I call, and borrowing a term from systems development testing, shift left. how do you move further and further up the attacker movement and the attack state so that you can get an understanding of what attack may be coming in the pre-attack stage while the attackers are going through their recon, while they're trying to weaponize to deploy their exploits. And so in this kind of new normal, and with the increasing level of sophistication that's being shown by the attackers, and the increasing level of sophistication that SOCs need to embrace to be able to defend their enterprise and to manage risk, they're trying to solve for the following kinds of use cases, right? How do you get better telemetry enrichment so that you are better at deploying new blocking and monitoring rules? Vulnerability prioritization, instead of just being an inward-looking vulnerability scanning methodology, how do you also look beyond your four walls to understand which ones are being exploited in the wild, which ones are being exploited by attackers for the kind of sector that you reside in? Vulnerability prioritization for a financial services company could look very different than an oil and gas company. And so being able to look beyond your four walls to understand prioritization are the kind of things that SOCs are trying to solve for. Brand and social media monitoring, right? In this day and age, misinformation not only is harmful to an enterprise's operations, but also to its brand risk, right? And so brand and social media monitoring are becoming more and more top of mind for SOCs, which wasn't the case 10 years ago. Threat hunting. As SOCs become more and more of what I loosely call a data lake oriented architecture, there are now capabilities where mature SOCs can go into hypothesis formulation and then testing their hypothesis to try and understand proactively what kind of attacks could be executed, or are there undetected attacks going on within their environment. And phishing monitoring, like I mentioned earlier. 2 years ago, if somebody had told me that there are full-time SOC analysts sitting on phishing inbox emails, just detecting and triaging phishing emails being reported from within the organization, within the enterprise, I would have laughed. But that is the case. It is super illustrative to kind of talk to enterprises and SOC analysts and try and find out how they spend their time. And right now, the only way we scale or try and address some of these problems is by throwing more human analysts at the problem. And as we know, humans don't scale. And so as SOCs are trying to solve for these, right? Enter cyber threat intelligence as like one of the capabilities that can help move SOCs towards the shift left philosophy, help SOCs understand what's going on beyond their four walls, become more proactive with their detection and response controls. But there are a lot of misconceptions out there. You look at cyber threat intelligence and pick up either research articles, blogs, trade articles. It is kind of like touching an elephant from different angles, and then coming up with your own view of what it means. Cyber threat intelligence is not just log data plus intel feeds plus a correlation engine. Yes, that is there are definitely elements of that in cyber threat intelligence, but that would just be what I would call a purely technical and reactive component of threat intelligence, right? You also need risk and business context that needs to be accounted for. Cyber threat intelligence is also not just producing advisories and reports around imminent campaigns, and obviously there's elements of this within cyber threat intelligence, but it just cannot be an exercise in writing reports, because at the end of the day you need to make it operational, and you need to have an impact on your own detection and monitoring controls, either through evaluating how well are current controls working, or how do current set of controls need to be updated to get better at detecting attacks that could be imminent. And so the way I like to think about cyber threat intelligence is the information has to be actionable, and it has to be relevant to your past, present, or future cyber events, right? Cyber threat intelligence is not just future looking, and it's not just reactive. It is a 360 view of what's happened, what's happening, and what could potentially happen. And the sources of these information could be different. What's happened in the past could be your own internal threat intelligence. What's happening currently could also come from your own internal logs, as well as talking to your peers. And future cyber events are absolutely impacted and affected by geopolitical situations, by the kind of business goals that an enterprise may have based on their own business plans, right? And so as you think about actionable information, what is relevant to past, present, and future, it needs to be a holistic view. And so next, what I do want to talk a little bit about is the types of threat intelligence, and what I'll go through are like what I see as a hierarchy of cyber threat intelligence information, and all three are foundational and critical. And as organizations think about cyber threat intelligence and integrating that into their SOCs, it is important not to over-index on one or the other. So to begin with, like the first category of cyber threat intelligence is what I would call tactical, right? This is where you're trying to understand the cyber activity that is being observed either to your own logs or through getting technical information from your peers, partners, and beyond your four walls. Generally, tactical information consists of things like indicators of compromise, IP addresses, reputation lists, malware hash lists, things that can be easily deployed within your detection and monitoring controls, but things that are also easy for attackers to change. The second category of cyber threat intelligence is what I would call more operational. This is where you're trying to move into setting up your own cybersecurity operations to be more focused on historical perspective around threat activity, understanding how attackers move along the cyber kill chain, or depending on whichever threat model that your organization uses, and setting up your detection and monitoring controls based on this historical data and a better understanding of the attacker, and this is where you start moving into the realm of creating sets of monitoring controls that go after specific sets of actors and campaigns. And then the third one is strategic threat intelligence. This is the realm of really understanding threat actors, creating dossiers on threat actors, understanding what their motives are, trying to understand if the threat actors are really targeting your specific market segment or not, and then putting in proactive mitigation actions in place against that threat activity. Strategic threat intelligence typically is what you find in reports, advisories, be on the lookout kinds of informational reports. And so as you think about these types of threat intelligence, then comes the fun part, which is how do you actually make it all operational? And over the last eight to 10 years of like having worked on several cyber threat intelligence initiatives, building products around cyber threat intelligence, I've kind of formulated an operational model that SOCs can look to better integrate cyber threat intelligence into their monitoring and detection controls, right? Either way you slice it, there's like, I would say, these 5 core capabilities that a cyber threat intelligence initiative needs to have. The first one is around being able to collect threat intelligence, being able to collect just intelligence, internal as well as external. As I have spoken to more and more organizations, one of the most overlooked sources of intelligence is what you have already gathered as part of your cases and tickets and resolution of various incidents. This historical data typically gets locked up within your case management system and lives there until somebody who kind of remembers having worked on that particular case remembers that, oh yeah, I had actually seen this in the past. We've already resolved this kind of an issue. Here's intelligence that we can redeploy. This is fairly difficult for organizations to do today. So collection is kind of the first capability. Second is around normalizing this information. Intelligence comes in all kinds of shapes, sizes, formats, and even when I talk about the types of threat intelligence, tactical, operational, and strategic, being able to normalize all this information into a common data model is critical and foundational. Being able to prioritize the threat intelligence so that you can decide what of this is relevant to my organization and which of these threat intelligence will I really focus on. Making it part of the analysis of your own threat analysis models, whichever you may be using, and then integrating and deploying. This often doesn't get as much attention as it should, but I'll go into why the integration and deployment of threat intelligence, be it your own bespoke capabilities or an off-the-shelf capability that you have bought, integrating and deploying it within your SOC processes and technology stack is still where a lot of SOCs have challenges, and which is why silos are created, which was the whole point of threat intelligence, was to kind of break down silos, but another silo inadvertently gets created. I just want to quickly go through some of the challenges around these capabilities and things to look out for. As you think of the first 2 capabilities, collecting and normalizing, I just want to quickly point you to this survey that was done by SANS. They published it in 2019, and it was a survey around CTI topics. There were 585 respondents in this survey, and you can just go top to bottom of the survey results, and you can see the variety of threat intelligence data that these respondents are trying to work with. It's not just 1 or 2, right? There's quite a few threat intelligence sources, and each of those have different types of formatting associated with it, different types of intelligence embedded within it, and they come in over different channels. They come over an RSS feed, or they sometimes have REST APIs associated with it, or sometimes they come over straight up email as a PDF that's attached to it. And so as you're thinking about CTI capabilities, especially as it relates to collection and normalization of information, there are standards out there that the industry is working on to address a specific challenge. Stixx, which stands for Structured Threat Information Expression, is kind of one of the most adopted standards. Currently, the subcommittee that works on the standard resides within OASIS, and it has gone through multiple evolutions since it was first introduced back in, I think, 2014. Today, the way Stixx operates is, as part of its taxonomy, they have defined 18 different standard data objects. that can define the spectrum of cyber threat intelligence data objects. So they have a taxonomy, but on top of the taxonomy, they also define an ontology, the relationship between these different data objects. And so the whole goal of Stixx is to enable organizations to share intelligence with one another, as well as allowing security analysts to better understand in a machine readable way and and in an automated deployment way, be able to bring in what kind of attacks are they're most likely to see, and really try and move towards this whole goal of shift left. Without standards, you are now trying to throw humans at the problem. You're trying to throw human analysts at collection and normalization activities, which is again not the way we are going to get to our end objective. Moving on to the prioritization and the analysis challenges, right? I'll say this, having worked with a number of different organizations, having looked at different intelligence feeds and intelligence sources, determining the importance of threat data is an exact science. A lot of times it can depend on the person who is actually doing the analysis. And then layer on the ability to kind of correlate the threat data to an organization's attack surface also is super time consuming. Often organizations don't even have a proper mapping of their attack surface. There are so many times that I speak with organizations who still don't have a full view of their assets, either through a CMDB or through some kind of other asset monitoring program. And so some of the foundational elements are required for you to be able to correlate the threat data. Otherwise, again, you are falling back to and reverting to more of a human-driven process. And translating threat data to business risk. Again, this is right now done through a very human-intensive process. When it's done, oftentimes threat data still lives at the tactical level, and converting it to business risk is something that organizations don't even try and do, just because they know it is super time consuming and challenging. And again, just want to point you to another survey that SANS did. This is one from 2018, and of all the things that the respondents said they were not satisfied with as it relates to CTI, the most respondents were not satisfied with the analytics around threat intelligence, as well as a simple thing around removal of expired IOCs. Malware hashes, IP addresses, they all have what I call like a half-life, right? And the further away you go from you have as part of your detection and monitoring controls. And so being able to remove expired IOCs is critical, but it's still a difficult challenge. And so just want to quickly go through some models that organizations have used. And as you think about CTI, embracing one of these models is important for threat intelligence to become operational within your SOC. The Diamond framework is one of the heavily used models within cyber, within CTI, and as a bridge between CTI and SOC analysts. Now, I'll say this, right? Like, the famous line: all models are wrong, but some are useful, and you have to take that with a grain of salt. But it also can be applied to CTI models. There isn't one perfect one, but there are several out there for like you to choose from. And so what this model really emphasizes is relationships between four basic components: the adversary, the capabilities of the adversary, the infrastructure, and the victims. And so just a simple walkthrough of the diamond model. Let's say we are applying the diamond model to a phishing attack. So the victim detects a phishing attack, which starts at the bottom vertex of the victim. The next pivot that you would make from victim is to look at the capability. The phishing attack contains malware within the with like C2 domains. So now we have moved to the capability vertex. That capability then should lead you to a better understanding of the infrastructure. You can do that by seeing what does this command and control resolves to which specific IP address, right? That command and control domain. And then from that resolution, you can then get a better understanding of the adversary by doing a who is lookup with that registrant information. Now, again, this is a overly simplified view of how a phishing attack works, but you can apply this thinking of pivoting between victim capability and infrastructure and adversary capabilities to get a better picture and apply your threat intelligence. The cyber kill chain by Lockheed Martin, again, really popular in the SOC world and the cyber analyst world, first introduced back in 2011. And what this gives you is a very I would say a good way of understanding the different stages of an attack that an attacker must go through, and it helps security teams to really understand their controls and do they have enough controls at like each stage of the attack that an attacker needs to go through. And then moving on to the MITRE Attack framework. This is one of the newest entrants into the frameworks world of cybersecurity. MITRE released this, and essentially it is a knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques that are based on real world observations. And the whole goal is to be able to use the knowledge base as a foundation for development of specific threat models, as well as again mapping your controls to understanding which of these tactics and techniques that are part of MITRE Attack's knowledge base is your program capable of detecting and monitoring. It has a very tactical focus, right? There's a need to communicate adversary behavior and the associated tactical and technical details, and that's what MITRE Attack is focused on resolving. And so between these three frameworks, you get an idea of the kind of connective tissue that can be created between cyber threat intelligence and making it operational within the analytical flow of your detection and response workflows. And then the last part the last capability I really want to just touch upon is the integration and deployment, which is obviously not as sexy as the analysis component, but it's still extremely critical. Again, just want to point you to a survey that ESG did. This was again back in like 2018, and out of 412 respondents, they found that 40% of respondents had between 10 and 25 security tools, and another 30% used 26 to 50 cybersecurity tools. So as cybersecurity programs think about the kind of integrations that are required to make cyber threat intelligence operational, you are looking at connecting your capabilities to multiple tools. And the image that you see at the bottom is something that Momentum Partners releases pretty much every year. They're a cybersecurity advisory that works with early stage startups. And again, this graphic is representative of the number of vendors and the number of segmentations that are created within the cybersecurity market. And pretty much SOCs deploy at least one tool within within each of these segments that you see, and sometimes they deploy multiple tools within each of these segments. And so it gives you a sense of the integration and deployment challenges that need to be acknowledged as like part of making CTI operational. So I just want to spend a little time on kind of like the road ahead, right? Obviously, there are a lot of upside to making CTI operational within the SOC, and I'll go through like three different topics that I've personally done a lot of research on that I think are again foundational to making CTI more operational. The first one is around extracting intelligence from unstructured text. Whenever we talk about CTI, there's an underlying assumption that this information is available to us in well formatted data sets that can be deployed within your SIEM, that can be deployed within your IDS, IPS. That actually is not the case. Threat data and threat collection and analysis is still a largely manual effort. And something that I've worked on in the past is how do you bridge this gap of human analysts poring over reports, advisories, PDFs, and then copying and pasting IOCs, putting them into CSVs, and then delivering them to SOC analysts so that they can deploy them within their detection and response workflows. And so automating this extraction and representation is still an open challenge. If you're interested in this, I did a presentation at ShmooCon in 2015 on this topic where we discussed how NLP techniques can be used to take data from advisories and convert them into Stixx representation data, and so to be able to close the gap between manual extraction and automated deployment. And then my team did another presentation at B-Sides, San Francisco, SF, again looking at this specific topic, but like using some more advanced NLP techniques like word2vec and doc2vec techniques. So if you're interested, definitely take a look at this body of knowledge. The second topic of like challenge that like needs to be addressed within the CTI world is around heuristics and bias. Anytime you have a heavily or highly human-driven process, bias is bound to enter, right? You have intellectual bias. You make decisions based on what you know about or what you've done. There can be emotional bias, where you're making decisions based on experiences and interactions. And then you have the cognitive bias, right? Making decisions based on simplifying your thought process, relying too heavily on just a single piece of information. And if you like, Thinking Fast and Slow is a book that I have learned a lot from, and I keep going back to that book again and again to better understand how we can take the concepts and ideas that were talked about as part of Thinking Fast and Slow into this world. And so when decision making and inference is still largely driven by intuition, we need to bring about statistical inference tools that make this inference more accessible. Right? Like when you think about the statistics body of knowledge, it looks like something on the left, right? What operators really want is answers to things like, is this evidence relevant? Should I prioritize this analysis? Does this new evidence change what I previously knew, right? And so to be able to bridge the gap between what the statistics body of knowledge looks like and what the operators need is like, again, an open space, fertile open space where addressing this problem can like really have a big impact on the operational needs of SOCs today. And so this is also something that I've done some research on and have published at ShmooCon 27. We talked about how do you use graph databases and a posteriori likelihoods be able to predict if a certain IOC belongs to a specific malware family. And we did some similar work that was presented at Black Hat Arsenal in 2017. And then the third challenge I want to just briefly touch upon is around information sharing and intelligence exchange. Cybersecurity is what I call a team sport. As much as organizations compete with each other on the business side, on the cybersecurity front, it definitely is more and more of a team sport where organizations are trying to collaborate and exchange their learnings with each other. And so into this mix have come these things called information sharing and analysis centers, ISACs and ISALs. They're typically nonprofit organizations that provide a central resource for gathering intelligence, as well as for providing two-way sharing of information between private and public sector. Right? So there are plenty of ISACs out there. Some are more focused on sectors like auto ISAC, financial services ISAC. Some are focused more on what I would call interest groups. So the medical ISAL, the research and education network, REN ISAC, and so when you look at intelligence exchange, there's two company analysts that are trying to exchange intelligence between each other to these ISACs, and some concerns that come up as part of the exchanges. Obviously, there's privacy protection controls that need to be embedded as part of this exchange process. Anonymity, data interoperability, how do you integrate, right? Going back to the integration problem. Sharing controls, there's this notion of traffic light protocols, TLP. TLP today is more of a self-monitored protocol, but how do you make it more automated and operational? And then evaluating quality and relevance. Again, these are all challenges that need to be addressed, so that we are not doing this at human scale, but we can do this a little bit more at in a machine-driven way, especially given the amount of information that we are seeing. And so just want to wrap up, keeping an eye on time. You can definitely try this at home. None of this is only within the realm of commercially off-the-shelf products, right? OpenCTI is an open source platform that you can go and download today, and they have a fantastic demo where you can see how you can store, organize, and share cyber threats. The threat intelligence source list. It's effectively a GitHub repo that is maintained by cybersecurity analysts, which has a fantastic list of open source and closed source / proprietary threat intel lists. Elastic Intel is another open source project that was built based on Elasticsearch, but to address the problem of threat intel aggregation. Again, you can go and download this and start playing with it yourself. And then there's MISP, which is an open source sharing platform, and Yeti, your everyday threat intelligence, which is another threat intelligence repository. Point being, if you want to get your hands dirty and start trying out these different tools, there are definitely plenty available out there. And I would recommend that as you're thinking through CTI capabilities and challenges, look to first get your hands dirty with these. And so just some takeaways, right, around making CTI more operational and just being aware of challenges, the landmines that typically don't get talked about within the CTI world. Start small, identify a use case, and map your CTI capabilities to it to collect, normalize, prioritize, analyze, and the integration capabilities. Take a use case, phishing, ransomware, crypto mining, whatever it may be, and then identify modify how you map CTI capabilities to it. Front load the data discussions, sources, ontology, how do you make it useful within your data workflows? Again, this is a discussion that happens way too late in the game. These need to be front loaded. I know nobody likes talking about taxonomies and ontologies, but it's hypercritical. There are plenty of standards and analytical models to choose from. Right, standing on the shoulders of giants is how you can look further. There is no need to recreate the wheel. And so pick the standard and then work with it. And then see solving CTI problems as a team sport. There's a high degree of collaboration among competing enterprises. Join an ISAC or an ISAL. And yeah, this space requires driven people who want to make a difference. And I just gave you a little slice of some of the interesting unsolved problems, and there's plenty more. So a number of different ways for you to get involved. So with that, thank you. That was at the end of my presentation. And yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, that's my email. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, but I do want to keep some time for questions.
That's great. Thank you, Shimon. That was really interesting. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I think you should be very proud of that Purdue education. So anyway, at this point in time, I do not see any questions. So if you do have a question, please type it into the Q&A function on the WebEx. And I'll just take a moment to remind everyone that these sessions are all being recorded, and you'll be able to view them on the CERIAS website and the CERIAS YouTube channel. So we will have the full complement recorded and stored there. Next week will be our last of the summer series. So next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we'll have another 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll have our final session for the summer series, and but watch this space. We will be running a series of seminars during the school year as well. When the fall semester starts, we'll be ramping up again. So I just want to make sure everyone knows about that. So I do not have a question yet, Shimon. Mike, have you seen anything?
No, I've not seen anything.
Okay. Well, again, I'll if no questions pop up, I'll just once again thank Shimon for spending the time with us. We really appreciate your
we do have one, Jerry. I have one in the chat here.
Okay.
Let's see. So Courtney says, you gave some good tip options or TIP options. There are free ones like OpenCTI and pay ones like ThreatQ. Do you have suggestions for how organizations can try products and evolve the solutions they might need? I think maybe answered that at the end of your.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to go over that again. And this is a question that comes up again and again. And yes, TIP, Threat Intelligence Platform, is what that stands for. And the thing that I always recommend organizations to think through is like three main things. One is integration. How well will the particular solution, be it open source or a commercially off-the-shelf product, integrate with the existing workflow that you have and the existing toolings that you have? It is hyper critical, and it's one of the least talked about challenges, right? So number one is integration. Number two, I would say is really looking at what kind of standards do they use as part of their data storage. Do they have a lock on how they formulate the data and store it, or is it pretty easy to access the data once it's been collected, right? So products that either open source or commercial, if they support standards, that's fantastic. And the third thing I would say which again, not a lot of people talk about this. Documentation. How much information will be available to you to be able to embed that particular tip into your workflow, right? I know it seems trivial. It's like documentation, really, but I'll tell you this: at some point, some bespoke scripts will need to be written, and to make it all work together. That documentation is going to be super relevant. And so the way I would recommend, once you have kind of created your rubric of evaluation criteria, is take a use case that is super important to your organization and run a tabletop exercise using whichever tips that you're considering. And it could be, like I said, phishing use case. It could be crypto mining. It could be looking at your cloud infrastructure for configuration compliance. Whatever it may be, take that use case and run it through a tabletop exercise.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else out there people would like to ask before we close? Okay, well, there you can see on the screen our strategic partners, and that's a list. There's hopefully we'll be adding more to that list as time goes on, but I do want to thank everyone for coming today, and we look forward to seeing everybody next week when we do our final summer session. So with that, I guess we'll close. So thank you so much for participating. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shimon. Take care.